So the news no one in the Yang gang wanted to hear has finally came. Andrew Yang has dropped out of the 2020 presidential race after very lackluster results in Iowa, followed up by below expectation results in New Hampshire. Yang had this to say. You know, I'm the math guy, and it is clear to me tonight from the numbers that we are not going to win this race, Yang told supporters in Manchester, New Hampshire. There was a part of me that thought that we might be able to win this race and get this done this cycle, Yang told Politico in an interview. And so there's a lot of disappointment because when you're goal-oriented and you're a builder, it's very hard to pat yourself on the back and say, job well done, if you didn't win. But rationally and objectively, I know that we've done something unprecedented and remarkable. Campaign manager Zach Grauman said that Yang and his advisors began having conversations about ending his bid when a second distant loss in the first two voting states looked likely. Yang, who has floated potentially running again in 4 years, did not want to drag it out. If you don't do well in the first two states, you start looking at the math, Grauman said. If there's no path to victory, forging ahead is a disservice to both your donors, the Yang gang, but also the message and this movement. Yang launched his long-shot campaign as an unknown in politics, the second Democrat to jump into what became the crowdedest and most diverse fields in history. He qualified for debates, but started off relegated to the far edge of the stage where lower polling candidates are placed. His signature proposal, giving $1,000 to every adult to help them adapt to the effects of computer automation, was seen as a gimmick at first, but over time was treated seriously by his rivals and some of the media. Yang, with his non-politician speaking style and quirky sense of humor, drew a surprising following, an online army of donors. He offered a theory of the current state of politics that distinguished him from his opponents. Yang argued that Donald Trump became president because automation decimated the manufacturing industry and devastated communities. Angry and confused, they turned to Trump as a break from the politics they viewed as responsible for their plight. Yang ran for months with almost no media coverage. His breakout came on Joe Rogan's popular podcast. Nick Ryan, Yang's campaign chief, said non-traditional media was at the center of their strategy from day one. Fortunately, we're in an environment where a powerful message and a strong online presence was enough to put you on that stage and enough to turn on 65,000 people to think, this is my guy, I'll give him $1, Ryan said. It wasn't until his campaign announced $9.9 million raised in the third quarter of the year that people started to take Yang more seriously. He followed that up with an astonishing $16.5 million haul the following quarter. Indeed, Yang's fundraising chops, his devoted fan base, and his rise from nowhere to outlasting sitting senators and governors to 6th in the polls was one of the biggest surprises of the Democratic primary. But the story took a sharp turn once voters weighed in. In Iowa, Yang garnered just 1% of the raw vote and no delegates. It's up in the air what Yang will do next. He's waffled on running for another office in the past, but teased that he'll be around for some time. I see myself as a problem solver and a parent and a patriot, and the problems are not going away. I'm not going away. The Americans who are passionate about improving our way of life are not going away, so we'll be here until the problems are solved, he said in December. Yang is going to hold out on endorsing for a while. He wants to see his kids get back in shape and reflect. He feels in his gut that he could have won the race if things had gone a little differently, but he's accepted that they haven't. He hopes that the other candidates find success by talking about the economy in the way he did and by not playing politics as usual. If I tried to act like a conventional presidential candidate, I think we would have been stuck in the mud a long time ago, he told me. I also would have probably jumped out a window at some point too. No matter what Yang decides to do next, his impact and message did not go unheard, and he interjected ideas yet to be talked about by any other candidates, from his universal basic income plan to his dissemination of mental illness. But with all of that being said, have a nice day, folks.